Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Moriarty, and I'm the Deputy State Long-Term Care Ombudsman for Illinois, as you can tell from the sign in the back. Before we begin, I would like to thank the Illinois Pioneer Coalition for allowing us to use this Zoom platform to be able to host these meetings, because this is the way we'll be able to have the same link used for all of our meetings all the time. So the link that you used to get into today's meeting is the same link that you could use to get into our future meetings. And just a couple of other things to let you know is that we do have a Facebook channel. So do get on our Facebook channel and like it. That's where we post a lot of our meetings, the topics, and we also put some other information out there that might be important for you as you're navigating this long-term care path. And then also, if you can't make one of our meetings, know that we always do record these and we put them on our YouTube channel. And I know I see Stephen is already, he's starting to get ready to put everything into the chat. He'll put all these great links for everybody into that chat so that you can just access them right here. And then you can make them your favorites. Thank you, Stephen, for always being there doing this for us. And know that we have over 70 videos on this YouTube channel. We've been doing this for almost 4 years, which is amazing. And you know what? It never seems like we could ever run out of topics, because the purpose of these meetings is really just to empower people with information so they can feel more confident navigating the long-term care path. And we do that by bringing in speakers, by having us present on information so that everybody can be made more aware. And we've got a lot of great meetings coming up. So I want you all to be really make sure that you spread the news about these meetings to other people that might be able to benefit from them. So what I will go ahead and we will do right now is I'm going to be talking today. I'm going to be the one presenting on this topic. So I'm going to share my screen if everybody can bear with me for 1 minute. Okay. Share. Okay, now let me see if we're all good to go. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up if you can see it. Okay, hopefully everybody can see this. Okay, so what we're going to be talking today is about empowering residents through person-directed living. And what does that really mean? We know that everybody, it's not everybody's ultimate goal in life to move into a long-term care community. This is something that's typically brought on by necessity. There's things that something happens in our lives that brings us to living in long-term care. And our worlds really should not change when we move into long-term care, because these are supposed to then become homes for us. So I just want to bring us to some questions. What does life really look like for people who are living in long-term care? I want you guys to think about it. And at any point during this presentation, if anybody wants to speak up and share their thoughts, we're more than welcome to do that, because these meetings are really about sharing everybody's insights, not just listening to me talk. So please do not hesitate to unmute your microphone and share, or you can always put things into the chat. And that's one of the things that Stephen does, is helps monitor that chat. And he'll make sure that I see that and that we can talk about that. So what does it look like? What does this life really look like for people who live in long-term care? I just want to sit and think about that for a minute. Is it places where people thrive, or is it places where people become a shell of themselves? Is it a place? A shell. Thank you, Mary. It can very much happen, right? That is exactly what can happen. People's needs, people's wants, people's desires seem to get pushed aside for policies, procedures, regulations, right? All of these things. What happens when we approach somebody if we want to see a change happen? One of the first things we get told is, we can't do that here. And then we probe that further, and they say regulations won't allow us, or our policies won't allow us, or corporate won't allow us. even if you get that as an answer, besides just a flat no. So what we want to do is make sure that everybody is fully aware here, of that change can happen and that life really can look good for people that live in long-term care. They can. So how does that happen? So let's think about this a little bit more. We need to change the culture of long-term care to be more person-centered and person-directed. Would you agree? Thumbs up or thumbs down if you know where your characters are on your bar, where you can go ahead and you can do that control, or if you're on camera, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you feel that we need to change the culture of long-term care. Yes or no? I'm seeing some thumbs up. I really feel that we do. I've been working in long-term care for over 35 years, and that has been something that I've seen it evolve. I've seen it evolve in ways that there's still wonderful and great opportunities for things to happen. So that's one of the things that we really need to take a look at is how. How can we make this happen better for people? So what we really probably need to be doing is we need to be asking people who live there, right? That's the way we need to do this. We need to talk to people who live in long-term care. And that's what I'm going to be talking about a little bit today, about something that we're going to be undertaking here at the Illinois Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. But before I get to that, I actually want to share this tool, the Artifacts of Culture Change. Now, we have talked about this before in these meetings. The Artifacts of Culture Change is a tool that was designed and commissioned through CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They are the body that when people say the regulations don't let us, they are the people who write those regulations. So I want everyone to be fully aware that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, who wrote the regulations for long-term care, are also the ones who commissioned for this tool to happen, the Artifacts of Culture Change. So the things that are in this tool are things that long-term care communities across our state and our country can, should, and some of them are doing. So what is this tool specifically? There's a couple of purposes for this tool. One of the purposes is to help be a community assessment tool for long-term care communities. What they can do is they can take this tool and then they can hand it out amongst staff. They can get a work group together. The administrator can sit in their office and look at it. But whatever, just pulling it out and taking a look and seeing what this tool says. And I'm going to get into some specifics of the tool so that we can understand it better. It's also a tool to inspire long-term care communities. So part of it is there may be practices that are asked on this tool that people may be thinking, I didn't even think that we could potentially do that. Let's try it. So that's the other purpose for using this tool, is to inspire. It's also an educational tool to teach the staff and residential communities what person-directed living is all about. We just think person-directed living. What does that mean? Person-centered care is another terminology that you may hear. Culture change is another terminology that you may hear. But people don't necessarily always fully grasp what this is. It's really, really simple. All it is finding out what people want and giving it to them in the manner that they want it, honoring people's choices. And if those choices go against policies or potentially a regulation,
Chocolate, strawberry.
all they need to do is put it in people's care plans. So if I am somebody that I am a diabetic, and I shouldn't be eating sweets and going off of my diet, then I have that right to do it. I have that right to have what they might refer to as a liberalized diet. But all the home needs to do is to put it in the care plan that this is my choice and my decision, that I'm the one who chose to do this. And the home's responsibility with that is just to make sure that they continue to remind me that I am taking a risk by doing this, and to be able to support that in the manner that they can. And that means that if I want that cake, I can have that cake, that they can still serve that to me because I made that choice and it's in my care plan. The other thing that this tool, the Artifacts of Culture Change, can be, it's a tool to get people, to get homes to take action. And it also can be a benchmarking tool. So one of the things that you may not be aware is that long-term care communities, nursing homes in particular, engage in quality assurance, quality improvement initiatives. First of all, everybody who lives in long-term care, as a resident, you should know what these initiatives are, so you can help provide feedback on those initiatives. And what this tool can do is, if a nursing home fills this tool out, tries some things, and then refills it out, they can see the change practices that have happened. So it can be a benchmarking tool for them to show that they've engaged in their quality improvement and their process improvement. And it's not only for the homes, though. It's also for the residents and families. Stephen, if you can put the link into the chat for the Artifacts of Culture Change tool, that would be fantastic so that you guys can all have this. I don't believe I have a slide that has a QR code on it, which I neglected to do, and I should have done that. So if you had a smartphone, you could have gone right to the tool. So I apologize for that. But we will post these on our website, these slides, and I will make sure that that link and the QR code gets on there so that you can access this tool. So what you can do as a resident or a family member is bring this tool in to the long-term care community that you live in or that your loved one lives in and say, have you thought about doing any of this? Wouldn't this make life so much better for everybody? There's been some things that are tried and true that have happened from people who have really embraced this changing of culture in long-term care. What starts to happen is people feel listened to. People feel honored. People feel respected. Complaints start to go down. Staff start to feel valued. Residents learn and know that their voices make a difference. And the leadership of the home starts to see that the world becomes better for everyone, including themselves. So this is something that I really want to drive home to everybody. Take action, do it, talk to the homes about this, and get them to make some movement. Some of these practices, as you're going to see, are really small, and some of them do take more time. But everybody can start with the small. And so what exactly is in this tool? So there's various sections to the tool. These are the sections that are on your screen right now. Resident-directed life, which is the biggest section of the tool. Yes, that's a great thing because that's what life should be, right? Being well known, another thing that everybody should be well known that lives in that long-term care community. People should know who they are. Home, environment, and accommodation of needs and preferences. That's another section. Family and community, and then leadership and team engagement. I'm going to talk more specifically about each of these areas and highlight some of the practices that are in these areas. And during this time, I want to see you guys give me the yays and the nays if you think that this is a good practice. Because you know what? We need to know, are these good ideas or aren't these good ideas? So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see a spot where you can, I'm looking to see where the control is, because it looks like it's moved for me, on how to do yay or nay. I can't see it with my screen open with the PowerPoint right now. So even if you do it, turn on your screen, give me a yay, give me a nay, or if you can find your control button where you can do the animated, like Patricia just did. Patricia did that earlier. If you can find the screen, the icon area where you can do that, that would be great. I actually went forward without meaning to go forward. Okay, so the first area we're going to talk about is resident directed life. Now, what is in that area? Here's one of the things. New residents and their families are welcomed by team members, introduced to the home and educated about the home's culture change philosophy, or enhancing residents' control over their lives, rights, amenities available, and choices of schedules. Does that seem like that would be a good thing or a bad thing? Let me see what everybody says. What do you say? I'm seeing a couple of goods. Anybody else? Let me see. Okay, people, I'd want to see what your thoughts are. So find your markers. This is for everybody. You don't just have to be a person who lives in long-term care. Everybody should be participating in this if you can. So give me a yay or give me a nay. Do you think this is a good thing or a bad thing? That people are welcomed to the community. I'm not sure if there's a hand, a question, or if that is supposed to be a yay. If it's a question, go ahead and you can unmute your microphone and you can ask the question. Okay, let's get rid of those hands. I'm going to give you another practice. Okay, here's another one. Snacks, drinks are easily available for residents at all times without having to ask. It could be like in a stocked pantry, there'd be a refrigerator or a snack bar, all of those types of pieces. And that's actually supported by a regulation. By the regulation tag is F508 for frequency of meals and snacks at bedtime. So do people think that it would be a good idea to be able to have food when you want to have food? Yay or nay? What's everybody saying?
From what I've seen, at least where in the facility I was in, they had vending machines, but not everyone had money to put into the vending machines. So is that a yay or a yes or no? Did they have it or not?
Well, it should be available because without cost, because you already have the cost is being covered by your stay, whether that's a Medicare stay, a Medicaid stay, or private pay. So it should be where there might be a snack cart that goes around a couple of times a day, or it could be where at the nurse's station in that refrigerator, they always have some snacks there. I've been to homes where they have like a snack box or by a coffee machine and a water machine, where people can be able to go and they can pull out some goldfish if that's what it is that they want, things like that. So that's what it should be. It should look like, or that you have that ability to be able to call somebody up and say, hey, I'd like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at 2:00 in the afternoon. Or, you know what, I'm having yanging for some cookies. Can I have a cookie? Could you bring up a plate of cookies for me? That's what it should be looking like you get it at home. That's what it should be. So to me, this is sounding like a good practice because you don't know how many times I go to that refrigerator or I go to that cabinet thinking that something else is magically going to appear in there. But just because I want a little bite of something, right? I think we all might do that. We all might do that. Okay, some other things that are in this area. The home celebrates individuals' birthdays rather than, or in addition to, celebrating residents' birthdays in a group each month. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that people who live in long-term care should have their birthday celebrated on their birthday? Thoughts? Any thoughts on that? I know that I live on a block. I live on a neighborhood, and it's a cul-de-sac. It's a dead-end neighborhood. And we don't get together once a month to celebrate everybody's birthday. Because if my birthday is on the 1st of the month, and we have that party on the 30th of the month, it doesn't feel like it's my birthday anymore. But we will get together and celebrate people's birthdays individually. That makes you feel special. It can be both. I'm not saying it can't be both, right? Why couldn't it be both? But on your birthday, don't you deserve to feel special? I think the answer is yes. I think we should be feeling special on our birthdays. So that's what I'm hoping that everybody gets that ability to be able to get their birthday celebrated on their birthday. So I hear somebody saying once a month to everyone, it will be too much to do it on your birthday. So you know what? Some people might have that preference. Some people may say, you know what? I don't need my birthday acknowledged on my birthday. So you don't have to do that for me, but it should be individualized. And other people might be, all I'm looking for, it would be really nice to have a card signed by people who care for me. Sign a card and wish me a happy birthday. It can be that simple. It could be maybe that a sign gets put on your door that says happy birthday. That doesn't stay up for 3 months because 3 months later, it's not my birthday. So it gets acknowledged meaningfully. I want people to think about that. If this is important to you, speak up and say, hey, why aren't you celebrating my birthday on my birthday? I'm 80 years old and I want to celebrate every year, every single solitary year that I have. So just another idea of things that can be done. And here are some ideas that may feel a little far-fetched, but believe it or not, there are long-term care communities doing it. They have a cat or a dog live in their building. Does anybody live in a place that has a cat or a dog that lives in the building? Not that comes to visit during therapy, but lives there. I've been to buildings that have done this. I used to consult to one dementia neighborhood that had a dog there that was his home, and he would sit on people's laps, lay in bed with them, cozy in the chair, and it was part of who he was. This was the dog, had a great quality to his life with all that attention from everybody, and he enhanced everybody who's lived their quality of life as well. Now, I've also been to homes that have had a cat that sat in the administrator's office and was never allowed in the administrator's office. That is not having an animal live in the building, or a rabbit that sits in a cage in the activity director's office all day long. That is not having a pet. Bringing that pet out to where people can have and be with that pet in a more meaningful way is what that means. So, anybody here pet lovers? That this would really mean a lot to you if you had a pet. I'm actually very surprised right now. I hear my cat jingling. I think she knows we're talking about her. She typically hops up on my lap when we have these meetings. So don't be surprised if you start seeing a tail. Other things. The home supports each resident's natural awakening rather than waking residents up on a set schedule. What are the thoughts about that? I see people are putting stuff into the chat. What do people want in regards to set schedules? I see some thumbs up. I'm seeing yes. Yeah, I know right now I am in control. I live at home and I'm in control of when I want to get up and when I want to go to bed, which is part of it dependent on working. But I get to be in control of that. And people should be able to make these choices and decisions for when they want to get up. That's how we do it at home. We say the reasons why this can't happen is because we've got medication that we have to pass and we've got breakfast that we got to get people to. I'm not a breakfast person. So don't wake me up to go to breakfast because I will not start my day off well. It will not start my day off well. I want a cup of tea and I can have that when I get up, whenever I want to get up. And that would be part of being able to have the food, the drink, whenever it was that I wanted that drink. So part of this is taking a look. If you're going to implement something like this, you've got to think about the other things that you need to also do in order for these things to happen. Medication. When you're home, if you lived at home, and I'm sure many of you might have had children that were on medication at some point in their life, and maybe an antibiotic. I bet you didn't wake them up in the early in the morning to give them the antibiotic. I bet you waited until they woke up to give it to them. I'm seeing right here, maybe that should be an intake or assessment question. Great idea. Great idea, Chantel. I really love that. I think that that's a really great way of doing this. Ask people, do you have a time that you typically like to sleep to? If you do, let's put that on your care plan and let's honor who you are. And we'll adapt our world for your world because this is about you. This is your home. My policy of getting everybody up for breakfast starting at 5:30 in the morning when breakfast isn't served until 8:30 is not a very good policy and a very good person-centered action and doesn't make me feel good as I'm waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And what you'll also typically find is that when the people that are being woken up earlier, many times are those that have that dementia-related diagnosis because they can't articulate that they're getting up too early. And then what happens later in the day? They can't even eat their breakfast because they're falling back asleep. Or a behavioral issue, a reaction to waking up too early. People get tired, they get crabby, and they don't get put back to bed. So these are all things that I want everybody to think about. All these things. So this is what this tool is about. Really taking a look and having some pondering thoughts about what it is that's going on for people's worlds. Another topic on this one is individualizing, bathing, showering, making sure that people get a bath when they want a bath and a shower if they want a shower. That we look at that choice. Do you really want a bath or a shower? Does the bathtub get used in your place? I'm curious. Or is it really everybody just gets a shower, even though some people might be bathers and they prefer a bath? Really taking a look at how that can be done. You know, people shower. If I was probably to take a poll with all of you guys right now, everybody showers differently. Some people shower daily. Some people shower in the morning. Some people shower in the evening. Some people shower every other day. Some people shower once a week. You know, it's a hygiene thing that people define for themselves. And they have a lifelong pattern typically around this. And we need to honor that as well. So looking to see what it is that people want and how we can do this better, because that really does create a better life and a better world and a better day for people. Let's see, we got some other things that I just want to make sure that everybody is also aware of. One of the things in this area is resident and families are kept informed of policy changes and decisions that affect residents. Are you all being communicated to as residents and families about the changes happening in the building? I know buildings who have even gone to the place of where they've asked the residents, they've taken what color paint should be on the walls. They put a couple of different samples out and they put it on the wall that they're painting and they say, let's take a vote. Everyone gets to vote on which color it is that they want to vote on. What a great idea. It's your home. Help make those choices. So these are things that parents, not every time they're notified, right? Your parents weren't notified, Karen. That's not good. You know, all of a sudden a remodel is happening in a building and people only learn that because the floor is being torn up. People weren't told about this to begin with, or an administrator change was happening and we weren't informed in a very timely manner. And we had a relationship with that person and we never got to say goodbye. You know, there's things that we really need to make sure that we're doing these things. Keep people informed. It's not that hard. You know, sometimes we're telling staff, and if we're not telling staff should be informed too. There's nothing worse for staff members to show up to work and feel blindsided because they had no idea that the floor in the neighborhood that they're working on was going to be torn up. They would have prepared better that day if they knew that. So information is important for people to know. It's their home. Let's make sure that everybody knows what's going on in their home. And the last one okay. So now I'm going to move to the next section of the tool. Does anybody have any comments that they want to make about this resident-directed living section? Anybody have any thoughts on anything that I've shared? If you're putting it in the chat, let me just check the chat and see how it's going there. Okay. Let's see. Okay, yes, transparency goes a long way. I love it. Okay, so now let's embark on being well known, the next section of the tool. Okay, being well known. So what does this mean? So the very first item on this area is the home collects information about residents' life stories and current interests and preferences. I see this as being really important for a person who may have lost their voice for some reason. I think that can be really important. That collecting of information, who they are, what did they do for a living? Did they have children? What did they do for fun? How did they spend their day? What do their current relationships look like? When's their birthday? Did they have anniversaries that they like to celebrate? Things that went on in their world. Did they have anything tragic that happened in their life? That might be really important to know if they want to disclose that, how I approach them, how I care about them. This should be a safe place, right? It's your home. And to be able to share who you are with the people that are caring for you can only make that relationship better and the care be deeper and more purposeful and really have that true sense of care attached to that word. Each resident's care plan includes their preferred type of music and their method of listening. Music. Music is really important in my family's life. We listen to a lot of music. The music is playing more than the TV is going in my house. And we've got a variety of different types of music. I've got 3 kids that all like different types of music, and my husband and myself. And we honor the music that we each like, and they've helped me grow more to like some of their music. But music can really help bring back some really amazing feelings. I went to a concert this weekend to see a band that covered Fleetwood Mac. And I love Fleetwood Mac, and my kids know I love Fleetwood Mac, and that's who took me. My daughter and my son took me to the concert, and we had such a wonderful time embracing music and sharing memories afterwards. And during the concert, we couldn't shut up because the kids were like, "Oh, Mom, I remember when this song, this brings back this memory for me." So that can really be embracing for people, music. Think about that. How is music done in the nursing home? How does that look? Do people know what music I like? Because you know what? If I'm not feeling good, if I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling happy, that music can really help escalate those feelings or make me feel better. If I'm feeling down, music is one of the things that really does help me bring me back to my grounding. And care planning, and that same thing, making sure that care planning happens and that it's purposeful and individual to each person that lives there, that it's purposeful, that it has in there what you want. Are you being asked in your care plan meeting what you want? What do you want your day to look like? Are you being asked what you need in order to have a better existence? Those are things that should be happening. And if you're not having a care plan meeting, I want you to think about what that can look like as well. You don't know what's going on for you. You need to know what's going on in your care plan. We've said this multiple times at these meetings, that the care plan is really those directions, that guide for how to care for you as that human being, that individual human being that you are. So this is the tool, this is the device, this is the method that staff can help know who you are. So your care plan should be individualized and personalized. And whoever you want to attend that meeting gets to attend it. Any family members that you want, if you want the ombudsman to attend, anybody can attend that meeting that you want. If there's a particular staff member that you want to attend that meeting, you can ask for that staff member to be there. It's your meeting. And people have heard me say this before. If you're not being invited to that meeting, it's rude to talk about people behind their back. And that's exactly then what people are doing if you're not invited to that care plan meeting. You're being rude. You're talking about somebody and you didn't even invite them into the meeting to be a part of that conversation. So those are some of the things under being well known. It's really a space on this tool that really dives into care planning and what that care planning can be. So the next area is, well, let me advance the slides. There we go. Home environment and accommodation of needs and preferences. So what does this mean? This is all about that environmental things. One of the questions is, all residents live in a private room. I remember when I went off to college, it was the first time I had this living situation where I was going to be living with a stranger, and it felt scary. It felt really scary. And I equate that many times to what it would feel like to move into a long-term care community. But the difference is I chose to go to college, to go away and live in the dormitory. Most people who move into long-term care are not really making that active choice. And I was still scared and nervous about this. So I can only imagine how it feels if I'm sick, I'm frail. This isn't my first choice. And now here it is that I'm moving into a long-term care community. I need that support. I need to be able to get support from people. Other things on that is really looking at some environmental things like no nurses stations, getting rid of nurses stations. So it doesn't feel like it's this big territory that the nurses only get to be in. So it feels more like home. I've seen things where there's been a big dining room, the nurses station's been taken down and a big dining table has been put there where residents can sit at, nurses can have the space to be able to chart at, their computer can be set up on that because there does need to be, electronic medical records. But residents can also go up to the station and sit there and even work on a puzzle if they want to. Making it be home, making it be more like home. And the section also takes a look at medication cards and what messaging that sends. They look for the elimination of medication cards. And instead, I've seen medicine boxes outside residents' rooms that are locked, but it helps take away this aura of being a facility and the aura of being more home. So taking a look and figuring things out like that. There are some other environmental things that are very much accommodated that are in the regulations, making sure you can see yourself in a mirror in the bathroom, making sure that your seat, you can sit, your seat is the proper heights, that you can be able to get to your clothing, that the rod isn't too high if you're in a wheelchair or if you're a shorter stature, things along those lines. And then there's also under this category that residents are welcome to decorate their walls according to their preferences. Can you bring in your own pictures? Can you put up a poster if you want to put up a poster? How can you make sure that your room feels like this is your room? I've been to some people's rooms in a nursing home, for example, that have really taken on the persona of who that individual is because they've decorated it the way they wanted to decorate it. And those are the places that feels more like home for the individual. And this is about not just feeling like it, but making it home. Another piece in this area is getting rid of that overhead paging. I have literally sat in a daycare, in a day room before, and have seen when there's been a pager, an announcement go off over the intercom system that Debbie has a call on line 1. And the resident by the name of Debbie in that room thinks that is for her, but Debbie was really the director of nursing. I don't have overhead paging in my own home. I don't know about any of you, but I don't. It could be very disturbing if I'm trying to sleep, I'm watching a movie, whatever I may be, I'm reading. It could be very disturbing to hear this overhead paging happening. That is not home. So the use and thinking about how that can be done differently. People having the right to be able to have a refrigerator in their room. I would love that because I'm a person who likes to have something to sip on all day long. I like to have my iced tea. I would have that filled with iced tea, maybe a couple of snacks for myself, so that, again, I'm getting what it is that I want when I want to have it. So you do have that right to be able to do this. It also goes into being able to have access to a microwave, access to coffee makers, and things like that. Another thing that's really, really simple. Did somebody want to say something?
Yeah, I actually, when I was in the facility, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I have been since I was a child. And I started having insulin reactions. And I suggested that, I would get a college refrigerator and put it in my room, and was told that was absolutely not allowed. They couldn't even they said that they would have juice at the nurse's station. And they had that same little type of, they couldn't make that work. There were so many times I had reactions that were like, I'm not sure if anyone here knows blood sugars, but my blood sugar was in the 20s and there was nothing for me to eat. Yeah. So
and that you get
that's a
access
huge one.
Yeah. And so, Mary, just to, there is nothing in the regulations that say you can't have it. It doesn't say specifically in the regulations that you can have it, but there's nothing to say that they can't, that an individual cannot have that in their room. There are things that go along with the refrigerator that they need to be checked. They need to be, the temperatures need to be confirmed that they're within the right range. And so that's the only reason, that would be the only barrier, but that's something that can definitely be done. And I see it. We see it happening in long-term care communities. So you were given false information, Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. And now that's, I know part of your mission is to make sure that other people are getting the right information, right? I know that that's
Yes,
part of what
ma'am.
you do. Yes, which I really admire you so much for taking your past experience and making it something that other people can learn from and benefit from. So I thank you for that.
We
Thank
did
you.
have a question in the comments, and I assume it goes with the refrigerator. Do they ever explain the reasons why?
No, as a matter of fact, I asked and I wasn't given a reason why. And keep in mind that my endocrinologist said if you need that it's a medical necessity, I will send that to the facility, to insurance, wherever I need to send it. And they still wouldn't do it.
And this is why the Ombudsman program exists, to be able to make sure that we can help advocate for people and get these types of things met. I mean, that's important. It is.
Yeah, and to that point, when I was regional ombudsman, I actually helped a facility write their policy on it, because they had no policy, and something like that, you need a policy. So I just threw out a bunch of ideas to them. Well, you're gonna need something with this and that, and eventually they were able to let people have refrigerators.
It's wonderful. Really cool.
Well,
And-
and I'm fairly certain my endocrinologist actually called the facility and spoke with the administrator, and still it was no.
Yeah, and so that's just very disappointing to hear that. But that's the reality. That's what people hear. And that's why that question that was phrased in the chat, did they ever explain to you why, is really important. We need to be asking those whys. Why can't I? And then if they say it's regulatory, then reach out to me, reach out to the Ombudsman program, and we will say, no, it's nothing says you can't. We'll comb through those regulations. I typically say to people, whenever they tell me it's regulation, I say, oh, really? Could you get a copy of that? I'd love to see a copy of that. That's my response. And I encourage other people to say that if anybody ever says, well, you can't do that because it's a regulation, say, oh, well, I would appreciate getting a copy of that then. If you could please get me a copy of that, that would be really helpful. And leave it at that. And I will tell you, 9 times out of 10, when I've said that, I don't ever get a copy of that regulation, because it doesn't exist. Because sometimes people that work in the buildings are also misled and told that regulations exist, and they didn't ask that question to get a copy of it. So now they just have that belief that it is. And this is kind of how those false regulations come into play, which I've seen happen through the course of the years. There's a question about, could they get a doctor's order for it? Yeah, you can. But you know what? Mary was going to get a doctor's order, and they wouldn't even let her, that wouldn't even allow. So, but making sure it's on the care plan, I love that. I love that, Ms. Perkins. That's a really great idea, to make sure that that it's on that care plan, because that is the driver, right? I hope we're all hearing that loud and clear. That care plan is the driver of your care. Here's another really simple practice that anybody can implement, that dining room meals are not eaten on trays. Food is removed from any tray used for transport. I personally really like that idea, because I eat off of a tray typically in one place, and that is typically at McDonald's, at a fast food place. That's where that tray comes into play for me. And if this is my home, I don't want to be eating off of a tray all the time. And I will also tell you that a tray can also create a lot more complications. Because if I had dexterity issues, that lip of the tray causes a lot of spills. If it's taken off the tray and put onto the table, I don't have to navigate a lip of a tray as well in order to put my drink down. And I hear it wouldn't bother some people. I get that. Yep, it might not bother you, but it's a really easy practice to get into play. And I want people to consider that, because this might be just the easy way to begin. I had implemented this in one of the homes that I went to, and I asked the staff just to go ahead and just think about it. And I came back the next day and they did it. They said it was easier for them to do it this way than it was by delivering trays. to everybody and collecting everybody's tray. They said the cleanup was so much easier because at the end, all they did was bring one tray to the table and they put all the dishes on one tray. Someone else brought a tray and they put all the silverware on another one. Someone else brought and they put the cups on another one, and it streamlined it to have only 3 trays, or sometimes even just 1 tray, to get all the stuff off the table. It made their lives so much easier. Or they'd pick another tray and they just put all the garbage on one tray and then dump that into the garbage can. It made staff life. They said that they would never go backwards, and all I did was ask them to consider it. And the staff moved forward with it and said, yeah, this is so easy. I don't know why we haven't been doing it this way all the time. So just something, again, to think about. Also having condiments on the table, salt, pepper, things like that, being able to have that on your table so you can spice up your food the way you want to spice up your food. Having Wi-Fi available, is that something that exists? Can you get you the Wi-Fi that you want to have? Having people that are in a wheelchair be able to sit in regular chairs in the dining room. Just a fact for people, just to put a thought in everyone's head. If you know anybody who has had an accident or has paralysis that has been something that is very long term, they have a wheelchair that is made for their body, right? They typically are in a wheelchair that was made to make sure that it fit their body. Now, I want you to think about if you've ever been in a hospital and you had surgery and they needed to take you to the front door because you had surgery, and so they put you in a wheelchair. What's the wheelchairs typically look like when we live in a nursing home? These transportation wheelchairs that we're using to get from point A to point B if we've just had surgery. They're not made for people to sit in all day long. Chair that is made for the individual's body type is a chair that's made for a person to sit in all day long. So that wheelchair, people should be able to get out of that wheelchair several times a day, because if you've ever sat in one, it's extremely uncomfortable. They're a sling, and pressure points start to develop. And this is where people can still get breakdown of their skin. So to be able to move somebody, at least during dining, to go from a wheelchair to a regular chair can really help people feel like they're them, like they're the person. That's who they are. So it's not a difficult thing to do. I used to consult in long-term care, and one of the nurses that I consulted with used to implement a practice that the dining room was a no wheelchair zone. And she would ask for everybody who came into the dining room to sit into a regular chair, unless they didn't want to do it, but to sit in a regular chair so that they had that dignity to be able to engage without having that chair, and to get them out of that chair and to do that transfer, to get their blood circulating in a different manner. And it was an amazing practice that she was able to accomplish in many buildings. Another thing that's on this is that noise at night is minimized. I don't know how many of you have been to a long-term care community late at night, but those that live there know what it can feel like. And you can have staff yakking it up at the nurse's station and you're trying to go to sleep. Or you can have the lights. They won't let you close your door. And so the light is glaring right in your room. And so you've got this big beam of light shining in on you while you're trying to sleep. There are homes that actually institute where the lights go out, they dim the lights tremendously, and they have quiet. And they ask staff to please be mindful of the people that are living there and to not carry on and engage in loud conversations while people are trying to sleep. So again, think about what those can look like, what that can look like. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to move on to the next section, which is family and community. Okay, so family and community, these are things where we take a look at such things as children regularly engage with residents. What does that mean? How does that look? Are children brought in to the long-term care community that you live in? I know, whoops, I didn't see, it didn't take. I know when I went away to college again, I missed seeing little kids around. I was on a college campus where there were no little kids. I really missed seeing little children and just the life that they have around them. So that would be important to me. It might not be important to everybody, but to some people, it definitely is important. Bringing outside groups into the home. You're part of a community. Why are you not being treated like you're part of that community? So if I have a book, if I moved into this long-term care community and I'm in a book club, why can't I still have my girlfriends come to my home, which is now the nursing home, and still have that book club? There's probably a space at 7 o'clock at night that I could get where my girlfriends and I could gather around and talk about the book that we're reading. And you know what? Maybe the home would also supply me with a urn of coffee and maybe a couple of cookies, but they don't have to do that. But that would make me really feel connected to my world, because this was something that I did in the past, and I get to continue to do it as I'm living my future. So being a part of that community can be really important. Making sure that people are engaged in the community life. Are you taking trips to the library? Or is it always just the dollar store and Walmart that we're going out on trips? Go to the library. I know my community library has free movies. I think it's every Tuesday, and they even have the captions in the movies, and they even have free popcorn. What a great idea. Let's go to the movies at the library and see a great movie, get a bag of popcorn, and enjoy my time outside the building. How about going to the parades? If you live in a little local community, are you bringing people out to the parades? Are people going to ball games? There's a lot of minor league games, or even go to the kids games at your local baseball field and adopt a team as the nursing home. What a great way to get connected to the community.
Hey,
Do you?
Lee,
Yes.
on that,
The point of the parades that you mentioned,
Mhm.
if your home is not crazy out in the wilderness, or maybe it's not on like a main highway, um reach out to the parade planners, because sometimes there's some wiggle room. And I had a couple of facilities that parades in town were routed right past the the nursing home, just so the residents could see the parade. It's not an outing, but it gives everybody the opportunity, and people would go outside and watch as the parade went by. It was wonderful to see.
Yes, and more people. There's a nursing home in Chicago that's right on a main drag, Western Avenue, for those of you who live in Chicago. And they have a parade. They have an Irish parade on St. Patrick's Day every year. And the individuals that live in that nursing home all come out and they sit on the front porch and they have so much fun. The staff come out, everybody comes out to watch the parade, which I just think is so much fun. And the people that participate in the parade really enjoy it too. They always get a real kick out of, they know they're going to have a lot of people cheering for them when they go by that nursing home, which is really cool. That's great. Yeah. I did see a comment in there about children, and I just want to make sure that I do address that about that, children should be trained. Some patients are not up to a lot of activity. And I think the point that we're really trying to make here is not everybody likes kids, right? I like kids. My sister, not so much. I've got 4 grandchildren. I've never seen my sister, my sister, Carrie, hold any of those 4 grandchildren. So we're different people, right? So if we both lived in the nursing home, I would choose to go to that event that had children there. My sister probably wouldn't. So that's where that choice comes into play. There used to be a nursing home that I consulted to years ago, and they actually did they just locally recruited a couple of women, and then it grew by word of mouth, that just kind of wanted to get together at each other's homes to kind of give them that break and do a play group. So this nursing home's like, come on into our place. And what they would do is the residents would gather around in a big circle. They put blankets on the floor. They had some toys that they put out there. And the moms and the kids would all sit on the floor in the middle of the circle. And it became a natural playpen that way with the people sitting around. And it was one of the best events. I never heard more laughing. I heard some crying. I heard some just giggles. It was just an amazing, amazing opportunity. But people get to make the choice. Do you want to attend? Do you don't want to attend? And that's the beauty of all of this is choice, making sure that people have those choices. Another thing under family and community too is to make everybody fully aware, because I know we've got family members on here, is that family councils have that right. You have that right to be able to have a family council. Does it exist and does it meet regularly? So this is something to really think about. Are you, if I'm a person who has a lot to say about my home, about the home that my mom lives in, I would like to talk to other people to see what they have to say and see if we can have a meeting. And maybe we can bring in a speaker or two to help clarify when we're being told that these are regulations. And so we can be educated on that and understand and figure out how we can work around that. So we can make sure that my mom gets the life that she deserves to have. It's a great opportunity to be able to inform families about what is going on in the community. So family councils can play a really, really important role. And I know that's something that the Ombudsman program can really help with. So if you're interested in this, reach out. You can reach out to me. I'll connect you to the Ombudsman. My contact information, Stephen, if you can put that in the chat, that would be great. So that you can always know. We're here to help develop family councils as well. So I know we're getting on time. So I am going to go through and let me see the next one. The next area is family and community. I started talking a little bit about those things. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is leadership and team engagement. And this is really, really important is leadership. Leadership is something that really needs to be looked at. And I want to encourage you guys, all of this stuff is really taking a look at things that the nursing home leaders can do for themselves in order to become better leaders in long-term care. So I want to encourage everybody to look at the tool. So why are we talking about this? I want to just let everybody aware. The reason why we're talking about this is every year, the State Ombudsman's Office for Illinois, we do a state initiative. And our state initiative this year is to encourage systemic change in long-term care by promoting person-directed living. And we did this last year as well. And we kept it for this year because we realize how important this truly, truly is. So what are we doing with this? I want everybody to be fully aware that on the second meeting of every month, which is our fourth Tuesday, we will be having a meeting in a long-term care community. So I might be going, or we might have them streaming towards us, and the local ombudsman will be with them. But we will be having residents at the meeting, and they're going to be on screen. And we're going to be asking them questions about these things that I was asking you today. You know what? I can sit here. I've never lived in a long-term care community. And I can sit here and say such things as, it's important for you to celebrate my birthday. But not everybody that lives in long-term care may feel that way. And we need to hear this from the people who live there. So that's what we're going to start to do. We want to make sure that we're bringing the residents' voices into these meetings more. So we will be on the fourth Tuesday of every month. During this meeting, we will be going to a different long-term care community and talking about these different change practices and what it means to people. And we're going to be focusing on one particular area. So we won't be talking about the whole tool. We'll just be focusing in on one area. And the home, the residents, and the ombudsman get to select what area that's going to be. We will be doing this. Our first meeting for this will be on February 25th. And we're actually talking to a home that is in the Peoria area. So they'll be the first ones that we will be having our meeting with. So I'm really looking forward to these because we've done a couple of these this year where we've brought the residents' voices forward. And it's been really, really eye-opening, I think, for everybody to be able to hear this information. So just to end it, I do have the QR code. I did think about that. Here's the tool on the QR code. If you got a smartphone, you can hold it up to that. And you can make sure that with that tool that you can share it with your long-term care community. Other things that residents and families can do, bring in pictures. Like I said, we want to create that environment. Let people know who you are and share these. Make sure that the nurses, aides who care about you know who you are. there's actually a form, and here's the link to that form, that where you can, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, the QR code is a link to this form, unfortunately. So you can click on this and you can fill out this form. It's all about me, and it talks about important things that are going on in my world that are important for you to know about me so you can do a better job caring for me. And then look over those tools, see what you'd like to do, bring it up at the resident council, start a family council and get working on some of this stuff, but really use this to your abilities so that you can have the life that you guys all need, want, and deserve. And with that, I have gone over 1 minute. I will stop my share, see if we've got any questions. I see that there's a lot of comments in the comments. Are there any specific questions that we need to address here, Stephen? Or are they just really more comments?
It's mostly comments, but let me scroll through real quick.
Okay, wonderful. And if anybody has a question that you'd like to unmute your microphone and let us and ask that question directly, feel free. We know that you can do that as well. And there were a couple of questions about it being recorded. We always record our meetings. And if you're not sure how to get to that recording, you can always just Google the Illinois Ombudsman Program, and it will bring up our website. And if you look at that, there's a link there to the Resident Family Support website, which takes you to all of the information about these meetings.
I actually have one question.
Yes, go for it. Mary.
I'm trying to find a diplomatic way to say this, and what I'm about to say is not as diplomatic as I'd like. So be aware that I'm not trying to be as direct as I'm being. Just to warn everyone. I'm wondering, what incentive is there for the facilities to do any of this? I mean, I love the idea, love it. But I kind of laugh at the idea of walking into that facility and suggesting any of this. I mean, if they even let me get through the entire statement of suggesting it, I mean, it would be gone. And yeah, oh yeah, we'll look at that. They may not even bother saying that. So I'm trying to figure out, how can you pull the facility into the discussion?
Well, Mary, I have had to do that in my past. I will tell you right now, I've had to pull the facility into this because this is something that I firmly believe in. The way I've done it is I have said to them, give it a try. We got nothing to lose by trying. That's one of the first things. And also I've said, you know, it's really, there are some proven facts that when you start implementing these practices, that your complaints go down, that you're dealing with all the time, and your staff get happier because they feel more in control as well. So while we're talking about all of this in regards to the residents, it has an effect on the staff. It makes the staff also feel more a part of a community, and not that this is just a place where I come to work. And what winds up happening is staff turnovers decreases, which is cost. A lot of cost go into that. Hiring of a new staff member. Also, when you take a look at all the mealtime suggestions on there, a lot of food is thrown out in a long-term care facility because we give everybody the same meal every day, and we give them the same amount of food every day on that tray. And we've got some people who want more, and we got some people who want less. And we got some people who don't even want what it is that everybody else is eating. But everybody gets that same meal for the most part. And if you were to just take a garbage can for one day and just dump the food that nobody eats, you would see how much money you can save in that regard. If you start serving meals according to how people want it, and then care planning it. So if people don't want all of that vegetables, they only want that many vegetables, you put that on the care plan, that the person doesn't like vegetables and they only want a few. And that's how you do it. And then you start saving the cost. So I hate to use cost when it comes to person-centered living, but that's part of the way you got to talk about it to, you know, to these long-term care communities, because it can't really be cost saving. Staffing, food, there's a lot of things that can really benefit people. Does that make any sense, Mary?
Yeah, it sure does. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they would honestly, like I said, they dismiss me if I don't give them a reason to listen. I mean, I think that's pretty, from what I understand, that's pretty common in many of the facilities that are out there. So,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're talking about it through the Ombudsman program. So you're not just hearing it from Mary, you're hearing it from Lee in the Ombudsman program. You're hearing it from, it's in the regulations, actually, the Pioneer Network, which is the one that when you go to the website to take a look at this tool, it's actually on the Pioneer. They're the ones that have sponsored the holding of this tool. The Pioneer Network is in the regulations, in the guidance to the surveyor. So that's another piece. You got to hear from multiple sources, right? In order for it to be able to stick for people. As our state ombudsman likes to say, repeating is receiving, or something along those lines that she always says. I can't remember exactly how she says it, but we
The
need to make
irony that you can't remember that.
I know after she says it all.
Well, and
I won't tell her, don't worry.
your question, and Lee, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay, so I remember it's like a Psychology 201 study, and I forget the name of it, but they had in this study, they took, I think it was 2 floors in a nursing home, and on the one floor, they gave everybody a plant, and it was their plant to take care of. On the second floor, they offered people their choice of plant. And the people on the second floor actually lived longer because they were able, like, they had some control over their lives by in choosing the plant, and they reported being happier. So that's another thing to look at. It's not just about a person's happiness or money. Your health is related to, in large part, your happiness day to day. So if you want to have fewer hospitalizations, fewer meds to pass, make sure your residents are happier. And happiness, it's not going to cure every disease, but it's going to help reduce some of that stress and reduce some of those ailments that we get. And that's going to, in turn, as Lee said, save money.
And, Stephen, you bring up another thing that you reminded me of is, so if you take a look at these various practices, there are arguments around each practice for why they're beneficial. And one of the ones about that sleeping to when you want to sleep, people that have instituted this practice actually have a decrease in falls because people aren't sleepy throughout the day. They're not just being put into a chair in the hallway and then they slide out of the chair, or they try to get up because they want to get to bed. When people have healative sleep, it changes everything for them. It can, as Stephen was saying, it can improve their health condition. It makes them have a better quality to their day. It makes them eat more food because they're not falling asleep in their meal. If you've ever tried to feed somebody who hasn't had enough sleep, that is a very, very difficult thing to do because they're falling asleep on you. Because they're not engaged in that feeding and that movement. You're feeding them and they're falling asleep on you, and it's really, really difficult. And then they don't get the intake, and then their skin starts to break down and their health starts to break. So there are things, if you look at the specific practices, and there are definitely benefits around that. And I have to say that this is one of the things that the Illinois Pioneer Coalition, they do training on this. They do a summit every year. They bring in people that have done these practices to talk about how they did it, why they did it, what the benefits were, what the struggles were, best practices, as well as, hey, we be prepared because this is a tough one. Honest conversations. And that's something, again, that you might want to tell the long-term care communities. You need to get involved with the Pioneer Coalition, the Illinois Pioneer Coalition, because they can help through this practice and you could talk to people that are doing it so that you can get their advice and their strategies. Sometimes I feel like I'm being a car salesman here. I'm trying to sell people on stuff. But this is a really, really, really important thing that we really do put people before policies. We really need to take a deep, deep look at how those that choose to work in long-term care actually do the caring piece to it, because that is the important piece. Caring. I care for somebody, or am I just doing a job? And so I think that that's the important piece that we have to remind people of. And Mary, maybe that's even how you begin. So you guys are here to care. Can we have a conversation about what care looks like and how it feels? And some things, maybe some ideas of what it can look like better. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end the recording. But I will stay on for anybody if you've got any further questions. If I could find out where I end the recording, that would be great. Okay, there we go.